climbing treacherous cliff faces, scaling the tallest buildings, jumping over huge gaps and from super high altitudes, acrobatics in the air and underwater, and now riding a motorbike down a monster ski jump and skydiving to safety. Tom Cruise is known for doing all his own stunts. But does he really? It's fairly common knowledge that Tom Cruise executes all his own stunts and even designs some of them. And he says the reason he does this is that when acting, he feels he should bring absolutely everything he can, both emotionally and physically, to the character he's playing, and he's willing to go to extreme lengths in order to achieve that extra layer of believability. But does it really make such a difference? For example, for the Halo jump stunt in Mission Impossible Fallout, they had to build a huge wind machine that was large enough for them to be able to rehearse the acrobatic sequence. They had to develop a special helmet that could provide Tom with the oxygen he needed at such a high altitude, and illuminate his face because the shot was a nighttime sequence. They did 5 jumps a day out of a DHC-6 Twin Otter, and 3 jumps out of a Boeing C-17, building up a total of over 100 jumps. The final jump had to be shot at sunset, so they could only shoot 1 take a day, and they had to spend 20 minutes breathing pure oxygen before the jump to avoid getting decompression sickness. And all of this planning, training, and preparation was done to achieve this shot, which couldn't be filmed in Paris, so they filmed it on a clear day in the United Arab Emirates. So this storm is CGI, and this background of Paris had to be added in post, and obviously this is a digidouble. In fact, if we go back to the start of the sequence, thanks to the illuminated helmet that Tom wears, the entire sequence looks like it could have been a visual effect, using only Tom's face, much like they did with Sandra Bullock in the 2013 movie Gravity. Okay, so maybe this stunt, in particular, was a hell of a lot of time, money and work for what seems to be relatively little usable practical footage, but surely other stunts were more beneficial, right? Well, let's see. In Rogue Nation, Tom had to learn to hold his breath for around 6 minutes, and a massive pool had to be built to film in. They had to use special waterproof cameras and special crane rigs to control their movements, but the entire background environment had to be created digitally, and Tom's journey down into it was 100% CGI. They also had to use special motion control rigs and cables to control and direct the actors' movements, so that they would coincide with the action and camera movements of the virtual camera and the animated CG environment. And then these rigs and cables had to be removed in post, and this CG graphic had to be tracked onto his arm. And so once again, a lot of time, money and effort for what seems to be very little benefit. So you might think, if believability isn't the reason, maybe it has to do with the budget. But these stunts are so elaborate, the safety measures so extensive, and the insurance costs are so high that, for movies that claim to have few visual effects, they are actually incredibly expensive. And they are getting even more so. Take the latest installment, Mission Impossible 7, Dead Reckoning Part 1. Tom had to practice jumping on a motorbike and skydiving to get comfortable with the stunt. He did a total of over 500 skydives and over 13,000 motocross jumps. They then built a practice ramp in a quarry in England, which was then filled with loads of cardboard boxes to catch the motorbike. They simulated different ramps at different speeds to know how far and high Tom would have to travel. And they attached a GPS to him to be able to map his position on every jump. And then they practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. This gave them an accurate data map so they could determine where they could safely position the cameras and drones. They spent months building the real ramp out on a massive cliff in Norway. Every single part of the ramp, every single tool, all of the facilities, and every piece of equipment had to be flown in by helicopter. Then Tom had to do practice jumps into the rock bowl from a helicopter to get used to how the wind affected him when he opened the canopy. And then finally, after all this, he executed the stunt. But this stunt pushed the movie's budget up to nearly $300 million, making it the 7th most expensive film of all time. And if we look at the official trailer, we see that right here, the ramp was replaced with digital rocks. And this guy here might as well be a stuntman because we can't really tell the difference. Later on, we see more CG rock and background mountains that don't actually look anything like those we see in the real stunt, giving the impression that they too were added in post. And Tom Cruise is so far away from the camera anyway that he might as well be a digidouble. So what's the point? Even in films like Top Gun Maverick, there was massive hype about how they were doing it for real. But as Mr. Green is showing us here, they didn't really need to. The real reasons for Tom Cruise doing his own stunts are that it provides an incredible amount of promotion for his movies. They can show amazing breakdowns of the planning and effort that went into executing the stunt. They can show practice and training. They can show footage of Tom risking his life. And they can build on this up to the point where we just have to go to the theatres and see it for real. The other reason is that Tom Cruise is a complete adrenaline junkie. He's a multi-engine instrument rated pilot. He can fly planes and helicopters. He owns a P-51 Mustang, a Gulfstream IVG-4 jet and a Bombardier 300. He skydives, climbs and rides motorbikes. He used to be a race car driver. And he even test drove a Red Bull F1 car. He's been doing jumps and stunts since he was a little kid. So, to ask Tom Cruise why he does his own stunts in his movies is, in his own words, a bit like asking Gene Kelly why he danced.